I'm sure you know by now there's more to being a successful content creator than simply hacking the algorithm, having insane video editing skills, or simply uploading one video every week for years on end. But what exactly is the real secret that'll turn you into a successful content creator and help you feel appreciated for what you create? Because the real transformation isn't just making better videos, it's becoming the kind of creator who can consistently produce without burning out. I struggled for years and paid thousands of dollars for YouTube courses to figure that out. And when I finally saw through all the generic advice, the hacks, and the fluff, I was able to boil it down to a reliable system with just three simple steps. First step is to ideate, or turning your idea into something that can be produced. Now, step two is to produce. We're talking recording videos and editing. And the third step is to distribute your content across different platforms. Now, if you're tired of trying to hack the algorithm or working as full-time video editor is not your goal, this video is for you because my three-step system turns your creative process into a content pipeline that will take you from idea to upload week after week without the chaos and the stress. Before we dive into the three-step pipeline, I want to talk about why content creation can feel so overwhelming and chaotic if it's not managed right. To be fair, most creators don't have a workflow problem. They simply try to fix the wrong thing, like getting better at editing or spending time and money on their studio setup. So here's what actually breaks most content workflows. Three failure points, which almost always show up in the same sequence, by the way. Number one is not having an idea vault or a database. An idea I have in the shower is not captured as long as I don't write it down properly. Meaning, it has to go into a content database of some sort, not on a sticky note into a notes app on my phone or on a to do list for 3 weeks from now. That's simply not good enough. All ideas need to go to the same place. Otherwise, I have to remember where I put them. And memory is a terrible database. The moment ideas live outside your head, content creation becomes scalable. Failure point two is the script gap, and it looks like this. Most creators go from a vague idea directly to filming. Maybe they wrote down a few bullet points, but there is no structured script. And then they wonder why recording takes 6 hours and still doesn't feel right at the end. Fact is, the quality of my output is a direct function of the quality of my input. Garbage in, garbage out. So when the preparation improves, the entire creative experience changes downstream. Step one of the content pipeline is going to fix that in a minute. But let's finish off with failure point number three. It's not having an upload SOP. So creators who don't have a standard operating procedure, and unfortunately that's most creators, they're making decisions during the upload process. What tags should I use? What description should I write? Did the pinned comment get posted? And what about the thumbnail? Every one of those decisions is a potential failure point in itself. Not because I'll get them wrong all the time, but because I'm relying on memory again at the end of the production process. Working without a standard operating procedure or at least a checklist is a system design error, not a discipline error or even a character flaw. Fact is, most content creators don't need more motivation, they need better systems. Follow the steps, get consistent results. It's literally that simple. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about the three-step system now. Here's the structure: ideate, produce, distribute. Plain and simple. 3 steps. Every video on this channel moves through all three in sequence. No skipping, no combining, no, I'll just record it and figure out what I do later. One after the other. The structure removes any form of decision fatigue I have before it can even slow me down. And generally speaking, I follow three rules which are non negotiable. Every video can only be in one stage at any given time. That's rule one. Personally, I use tags to color code the folders on macOS, and I have each of the stages broken down a bit more. That way, I quickly see the status of each video or project, not to write and to shoot, and not to shoot and to edit, because if a video is in 2 stages, the pipeline would have a design error that needs fixing. The only exception to the color coding is scheduled and live, because here both can happen at the same time. For instance, with a short that's already published, but the long form video only comes out a few days from now. Rule number 2 is that each stage has a defined input and a defined output. So I cannot start the to edit phase without the input that the to shoot phase produces. And rule 3 is nothing lives in my head. Everything is documented because if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, someone else has to sit down, open the folders, and know exactly where every video is in the pipeline. That's the standard. Not I know where everything is, but the system knows where everything is. Right. So let's talk about the first step then. Ideate. To me, this has nothing to do with being in a creative mood. It's not a brainstorm session I run whenever I feel like it. It's a structured approach or a structured concept and a research process that runs when it's time to run it, meaning before it's time to shoot the next video. I simply ask myself 3 questions. Is there demand, or in other words, does this idea or keyword have enough search volume to make production worthwhile at my current channel size? Question 2 is the competition beatable? So, can my channel realistically rank on this keyword right now, or am I going up against channels with a decade head start and a million of subscribers? And number 3 is, does it fit the cluster? Does this idea serve the same audience and reinforce the same channel positioning as my other content? Or is it an interesting tangent that will attract the wrong subscribers? If the answer to any of those is no, the idea stays in the idea database for now. But simply because an idea doesn't pass today doesn't mean it's not the right call 6 months from now. When the answer is yes, there is demand, the search volume is good, and it fits into the channel right now. Then I sit down and plan out the idea. That removes the what should I make this week friction from every other week of the month. I want to have content prepared in advance so that I don't need to rush the shooting and editing every single week, which means I tend to plan content in clusters, not in individual videos. So every piece of content supports the next instead of competing with it. A cluster in this case is a keyword family, a core topic with enough search volume and subtopics to support 3 to 5 long form videos and a number of shorts, so that each individual video is an item inside the cluster, not an independent decision. Here's an example. This video is part of a content cluster that we can call the Creator Operating System. The cluster has 4 videos, 3 individual topics, and 1 compilation of all 3 parts. Each video is one part of a big picture idea, which in this case is that content creators need to run a system instead of winging their uploads. Now, this video specifically is split in 3 sections: an introduction, a core idea, or the 3-step content pipeline, and a close. Each section is broken down into 3 subsections or parts, and the other videos have a similar structure to give them the same feel and the same editing workflow. And this is important for the long form compilation at the end, where all 3 parts become one with a fresh hook in the outro. Long story short, the key message is that I sat down to map the entire cluster before shooting a single frame. And this is the point where we have to talk about doing some research. When I started out, I just sat down, pressed record, and talked about things I wanted to talk about, not necessarily what you wanted to hear about. So that got frustrating really fast because subscribers didn't come in and the numbers didn't improve. So I started to do more and more research, and since then it has become part of the ideation step to check a few things before I go off on a tangent. Because this is what sets successful YouTubers apart from everyone else. Going at it strategically by doing research and not just shooting topics from the hip like there's no tomorrow. Everything else that comes after is influenced by the research: the title, the thumbnail, description, the tags, and so on. Generally speaking, I like to cover 3 fields while doing research. One is keyword research, the exact search term I'm targeting, not a topic, not a broad theme, the precise keyword phrase. For example, for this video, the target keyword phrase is content creation workflow. Next, I look into the outcome. You, as the viewer, what's your pain point before you watch this video? Not, hey, they struggle with content planning. That's a category. The pain state is more precise like that. They spend 30 minutes every week deciding what to shoot next, then second guess the decision throughout the entire production process, and still aren't sure if they made the right call when they hit publish. That's being a precise pain state. Being specific here determines how accurately my hook will land. And last but not least, I think about systems. How can I turn the topic into a system that delivers a certain outcome? Now, in this video, the system is a three-step content pipeline. Naming it serves two functions. First, it gives you a mental model to retain, and second, it forces me to structure my script before I've written a single word. A name system is remembered, a collection of tips is not. Every once in a while, I top this up with competitor research as well. See what other people in the same niche are doing. Although I don't like to focus that much on it because we quickly get into a situation where I start copying what other people do and measure myself against their numbers. And now that I talk about it, I realize I haven't mentioned that I use vidIQ for the ideation step these days. It turns my ideas into scripts, helps me do keyword research, and check out what other people in my niche are doing. Most importantly, though, it helps me with step three of the content pipeline, the packaging part of the distribution. I'm talking thumbnail, titles, description, tags, and so on. Everything I need to publish a video like this. And we're going to talk about that step in a moment. For now, I want to acknowledge something. If you've never run a structured content pipeline before, this might feel like a lot of work for what it is on the surface, just making a YouTube video. So here's my blunt opinion. You don't have the time not to run this system. Every time you produce a video from scratch, you're spending hours on logistics that the pipeline can handle in 45 minutes. Multiply that across a year of content creation, and we're talking about a major inefficiency with a very clear cost. Once you start using the three-step content pipeline, every video after is cheaper to produce and more consistent in output quality. And consistency is what ultimately transforms creators into trusted brands. That being said, most creators don't actually need more motivation. They need better operational systems during this transition. And that's exactly why I created my one-page Solopreneur operating system. It gives you a structure for running your business, content, and workflows with more clarity and less chaos. Link is in the description below. All right, we're ready to produce now. Step two of the three-step content pipeline. It's time to shoot some footage, edit the videos, and then package them up for publication. As someone who has recorded more than one video without the mic being turned on, or the camera for that matter, I've learned that I need a checklist for shooting. I can't emphasize enough how much time this saves me today, especially because I still adjust my video gear every now and then. The moment I put my mic in a different spot, it's easy to forget to turn it on. So I run through a video recording checklist to make sure everything is set up properly. We're talking AC set to constant airflow, lights at the proper intensity, camera settings verified, not assumed, audio levels tested with a spoken sentence, not a clap, backup recording running as well, and so on. We could go into more detail here, of course, but that's not part of this video. For now, we assume that we finish shooting our footage and we get to edit that as part of the production step. And I want to differentiate right away between editing and packaging. So editing is all the work that happens in DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro, Final Cut, or whatever editing software you're using. Packaging, on the other hand, is a separate process that comes after and is done with other applications like Canva to create thumbnails, let's say. Also, editing and packaging run in sequence, not parallel, with the edit happening first. If you have someone who edits videos for you, you can skip that part, of course, and move forward. I still edit myself, so I have an SOP for that to make sure the essentials like lower thirds, B-roll, and transitions are included in the final product before I move on to the packaging phase. At this point, I obviously have a thumbnail idea or a draft from step one of the content pipeline. But once I'm done editing the video, I go back to it and make changes. Same goes for the title, the description, keywords, and the other things that are still relevant for YouTube today. Since I'm using vidIQ for most of the packaging work, I get scores for titles and thumbnail options to see how they should perform. I say should because it's not always accurate and I'm still figuring out what works and what doesn't work with every new video I put out these days. Let me know in the comments how you package your videos after editing to get good results. What workflow and tools you're using before distributing your content, which is what the final step of the 3-step pipeline is all about: distributing and publishing the content package. If you've done the first 2 steps, this one should be easy and, most importantly, fast. Upload to YouTube, add a title, thumbnail, and the other info in the advanced settings section, schedule, and done. Of course, the same applies to other platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Depending where you publish your content, you probably have different workflows and formats for the video, but the overall content pipeline system still works. The ideation step may look different if we consider a reel instead of a long form video. Same goes for research, editing, and the final packaging. But the 3 steps, ideate, produce, and distribute, stay the same. That's one of the reasons why systems like this one are so powerful and can make the difference between a casual creator and someone who runs content creation like a business. If that's you, the pro who wants to run content creation with a business mindset, then there's one more part to the distribution step you should consider, and that's a post publication review. For YouTube specifically, I extract a few numbers from the analytics tab once the video has been live for a few days. CTR or click through rate, average view duration, and traffic source split. Now, CTR tells you whether the packaging is working. Below 4%, the title or thumbnail is not converting well. Average view duration tells you whether the content is holding attention. Below 40%, there's a hook or pacing issue. Traffic source split tells you whether SEO is connecting. If search traffic is under 20% of total views at 7 days, the keyword is not ranking. Based on those numbers, I make decisions for the next ideate cycle. And this is the point where the 3-step content pipeline turns from a straight line into a loop. The review part of step 3 influences the ideate step, where it's all about checking if the idea holds up to demand. What do I mean by that? The data you collect in the review directly informs which ideas from the idea database get turned into videos next month. A content cluster that's driving a 6% CTR and 55% average view duration gets more attention than a cluster that's running 2% CTR and 38% retention. If the pipeline would simply be a straight line at this point, it would be a production system. Now that we can turn it into a loop, we get a learning system. Because with every cycle, the system gets more data. Every cycle, my production decisions are better informed. That's the compound effect on an operational level, by the way. I know it's a lot to take in, so let's bring it all together. 3 steps in sequential order: ideate, produce, distribute, with clear questions and tasks for each step, like editing comes before packaging in the production step, all of which turn chaotic content creation into a reliable and repeatable system for content creation that's run like a business. Because the real transformation is not becoming more creative, it's becoming more intentional. Now, here's the thing about implementing this: you don't need to build all 3 steps perfectly before you start using the content pipeline. Start with solid research of keywords next time, or write a checklist for recording sessions. Those are small improvements to a workflow you already have in place. The 3-step content pipeline is just a more structured version to help you go from idea to upload with a lot less chaos. And once the workflow becomes reliable, the next bottleneck is usually organization. But none of this matters, of course, if you don't manage your files properly in the first place. I'm talking folder structure, naming conventions, backup rules, and how to get that right with a few tweaks to your existing setup. The 3-step content pipeline is only as good as the foundation it's built on. So if you've ever spent 20 minutes searching for a clip or a file that should have taken 30 seconds to find, the next video is for you.